Hello, I'm Donald, and this is In Conversations, and I'm joined with Alice today, and we're going to talk about the month of August and review a little bit about what happened in July.
Donald, it's so good to see you and to be able to engage in this conversation because I'm looking back at July. I feel like things have really just tipped, altered in my life. And I know the first part of July was wind. That
Mhm.
was the energy that we had talked about the last time. And if you're interested in what our conversation was, then you can check it out on this channel. Wind was to blow away things and it cleared my whole life because we ended up clearing our home in Florida and starting over again in Jasper, Georgia, which is up in the North Georgia mountains. And then the second part was Army,
Mhm.
which when I was reviewing it, you get focused and you plan and you do stuff. That described the whole events around selling the house, cleaning it up, packing up, moving, getting to a new place, etc. So how about for you?
I felt the energy of wind blowing away like what no longer belongs in your life. So that could be anything from old chair that you just kept around because for whatever reason,
Mhm.
and now it's gone, to people in your life. Maybe I'm moving house as well. So it's been blowing a lot of things away. And I'm like, well, it's opening up. I like to think of this as we're all containers and this is our capacity. So when you remove things from your container, you open up new room for more things to come in. But before you can do that, it's also a good idea to use the army gate to organize or get a plan with what you do have left over after wind is done knocking it away or blowing it away.
So anything else about the planning part of it?
Yeah, getting organized. So I did like a lot of cleaning and I'm organizing. I'm actually moving in with my mother again. I'm organizing the room I'm going to be staying in, and I'm also getting another room ready for my daughters in case they want to stay over. It's a lot of movement and getting rid of stuff. Even she's getting rid of stuff because I'm coming in, so she's got to make room for me.
So interesting. I found the getting rid of things, the process. I had put everything all together in one room to pack up. And then I would look at things and why am I holding on to this? How did this even get here? They talk about things in your environment, they just pop up like mushrooms. It felt like there were a lot of mushrooms. I had some days where I made 3 trips into Valdosta, which is the closest big town with the Goodwill, drop things off at the Goodwill. I'm always, if something is useful, but not for me, let
Hmm.
me pass it on in the universe so that
Yeah.
it can be used by other people.
We gave a lot of stuff to Salvation Army, which is like a place that resells to
Right.
people with not a lot of money. We gave a lot of stuff to friends and what was junk went to the garbage. So it was good. I kind of feel like a minimalist now. We got rid of a lot of things.
I got to the point of the packing. Maybe this is where the army stepped in. You've got a plan, you've got dates that need to be honored, things are happening, you've put them in place, and now you just need to get on with it. There were boxes that I just dumped stuff in, and I said, okay, when I get on the other side of this, I will just unpack and, deal with it then.
Yeah, but it's good to unpack slowly. Maybe this is the energy of the army working for you, like just organizing things. What do you want to keep? What are you getting rid of? Setting things up. So you're just getting organized in your new house, right?
I really think that's true because I'm just taking it room by room or area of the room by area of the room. Never before have I thought about, okay, I should just sit and consider what goes on the wall and what doesn't, the flow of things. I would just put stuff out. This time it's more, like you said, like the energy of the army, organizing. And actually, I think part of one of the changing of the lines in the army was to gather people around you. I would call them your first circle, those people who are your friends, maybe they're friends for a long time, and just bounce ideas off of them and get suggestions and feedback. That's been really a remarkable experience to have that and to be open to that. And then just to make lists and not to have to act right away on them, just to think about things. I think what I had was I was engaging with the energy according to what Eve had laid out in the book. The book we're talking about, for those of you who've joined us for the first time, we're talking about the I Ching Predictions
Mhm.
for 2026, and it's written by Eve Smyth. Each chapter is about the energies for that month. Donald and I have been talking about what's in the chapters and some of the reflection questions and how it's helping us true up our understanding of what's going on,
Mhm.
and also to recognize difficult situations for what they are and reflect on different ways as opposed to just putting on blinders and going and doing and
Mhm.
reacting, maybe not in our best interest or the other person's best interest or the environment best interest, that kind of thing. What do you
Yeah.
think, Donald?
Helped me grow as a person and as a bit of a leader in that now I can zoom in and out of situations, get the bigger picture, or get into the details when you need to. It's all about perspective shifting. It's given me a lot of new tools to help me navigate this life. So I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I find too that I don't get unsettled by things going on in the environment and all the yakety yak and things like that. It
Mhm.
helps me stay, as you talked about it, more balanced
Yeah.
and focused on me,
Mhm.
not in a selfish way, but in a way that's appropriate for what's going on at the time or the people I'm with or whatever. I don't have many worries. I'm a worrier by nature. I am finding that I don't worry as much anymore. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, that started with meditation years ago, but this book's also helped me to drop the worry because you get to a place where you recognize how life is happening for you instead of life is happening to you. And instead of reacting, you get to react with more consciousness around the situation. You're not overreacting and you're not doing things hastily and stuff like that.
In a way, I feel I'm using the term, not always, but occasionally grace, but it's
Hmm.
giving myself or accepting grace in my situation, my environment. Maybe that feeling of letting go and letting in just the knowledge or the comfort or the understanding that things are always changing. We know that from the I Ching. That's the premise of the book. And it's okay. I don't fight against them. I don't push against them. I don't scheme and try to alter, just more going with the flow, I think, is what I'm finding.
Yeah, you stop running the red lights.
That's right.
Yeah, start obeying the rules of the road and just staying in your lane, and everything works out smoother for everyone. Yeah.
So, is there something that you would like to talk about to wrap up July before we enter the conversation about August, which is occurring for me now?
Yeah, I was actually going to talk about that a little bit. How do we know when we're going to shift from July to August? You'll start to notice that there's setbacks that require your action. We're moving into this chase energy. You're going to be chasing something. I'd like to provide human design knowledge of the gate 17 as well, which is the gate of opinions or following. It's funny because Eve calls it the chase, the following, like following opinions. July was like the wind was blowing away everything. I really felt there was a lot of doing. I did more in July so far than I've ever done. It was just like a lot of work. We got our house ready for sale. I'm getting the new place ready to go where I'm going, getting rid of all the stuff, cleaning, all the cleaning. Oh my goodness. But it felt good because I was able to stay present with it. So instead of saying like I have to clean, I was let's just clean for the sake of cleaning and enjoy the work rather than get angry at the work, which I think a lot of people do. Oh, I got to do the dishes. And then they blame their children or spouse that doesn't do the dishes ever, instead of just enjoying doing the dishes, because then you're not attaching any negative energy to the actual work. If you're too tired to do the dishes, then I just ask for help.
And every small thing you
Mhm.
do, for
Mhm.
example, the dishes, it's an accomplishment. And then in just a little while, it's all finished.
Yeah.
So,
And it's just like gardening, because I know you love gardening. You got to really tend to the plants. Your hands are in the dirt, and you're adding kind of like a caring to what you're doing. You're caring for yourself or you're caring for others by cleaning your space up. And it feels good when it's all done too.
exactly.
I think we covered everything for July because
Okay.
we talked about the planning and the organizing and getting everything ready. It looks like we're going to move into a more faster moving energy with the chase. Well, it
So,
feels like that because chasing reminds me of running after something or trying to catch something that may be
right.
fleeting.
For those of us who have the book, we are ending July closing thoughts, which is on page 130. And the next chapter, The Chase, begins on page 140. The closing thoughts, I underlined a couple of things that struck me. Eve writes, the Army represents organized action born from internal balance, clearing self-doubt and restoring flow. The Army completes by channeling that clarity into purpose. So for individuals, this means leading your own life with precision and heart. And we just talked a little bit about that. And for the collective, which would be those around us, the world, the neighborhood you're in, the community, the country, it means ensuring that power rests with those who lead through service and merit, not ego or convenience. And then she says, this energy builds the foundation for the rest of the year. It builds structure, accountability, and courage in motion. I underline that because actually that was, I think, what we were talking about we were doing in July. Actually tearing down structures and rebuilding structures in our lives and where we live, what we're doing, knowing that things had to be done. There was a plan and it was up to us to make sure that the accomplishments happened with accuracy and on time whenever possible. And courage in motion. There was a lot of motion in terms of all the cleaning and the moving and all the things that had to be gathered, not just physical stuff, but paperwork and with our own perspective on things, etc. So as you enter August chase, hold this balance close. You'll know that the energy is shifting into chase when you hit a setback that provokes you into action. As you said, that was hexagram 17. And you had
That's
mentioned something about human design. There's a way of looking at that hexagram. Would you share a little bit more with us about
yeah.
that and how that kind of weaves into what we're talking about here in
Sure. So hexagram 17 is in the body graph. In human design, you have a body graph. It lands in the ajna center, or the spiritually, like some people might think of this as like the third eye. It's where we formulate our concepts of the world. This is in the gate of opinions. So our concepts formed from our opinions of things. It links up with the gate 62, which is the gate of detail. You can have all the opinions you want, but you need to back them up with details. Otherwise, they're just your concepts based on whatever you feel or whatever you think or what someone else told you. And you don't really have your own concept. So then you're just repeating or parroting what other people are talking about. Gate 17 is important. What's important about it is it's about you're gaining this understanding to lead or be of service to others, which is what Eve talks about as well. Leadership and being of service to others. What this always reminds me of is those who wish to lead, like there's a saying, those who wish to lead must first learn to follow. When you come into a company, let's say, or a new job, and you have all these big ideas of changes you want to make, but you haven't even worked a couple days, why don't you work the couple days first and then see if your ideas or your opinions or ideas will still hold up before trying to make any changes, or see how they do things and then make suggestions later. Follow first, go with the flow and see how that all works, and then talk to people about changes if those are still applicable. Hexagram 17, as we're moving into it, is it's a very favorable time. If you've done the work for July, both internally and externally, you're going to have a favorable time in August because you won't be tripping over things because all your stuff will be organized. There'll be much less stuff around. And that could even be emotional baggage that you were carrying that maybe you released. So this could be internal or external things. It doesn't always have to be physical things.
When you talk about it, not just the physical, but the emotional, that's a lot. I think sometimes we dismiss or we underrate how much stuff we have to deal with, or that we haven't dealt with, or that we need to deal. But when you add that in
Mhm.
to just boxes to unpack all the emotional things, that's huge.
Even when you're moving, there's some sentimental attachment to the place you're leaving. There's also a grieving process. I know people think of grieving, they only think of loss or death. Even when you move house, or even if you change relationships, or maybe you had to give your pet away to someone, these are all grieving processes that you have to go through. And you can ignore them, but then those unpacked boxes you'll be tripping on
Right.
emotionally when you're trying to chase the next thing.
And leaving friends, because I had created a network
Right.
where we were living in North Florida. I got enmeshed in the community. I didn't realize it. I've always thought of myself as a loner or an outsider, but I was really with some of these activities that I was doing, cleaning up the park, planting flowers for the community, stuff like that. I've been trying not to think of moving as a betrayal
Mhm.
because for me, it was a choice. It wasn't forced. The move was a choice. We could still choose to move physically, but in a way, we were moving to be closer to our daughter so that it would work for all three of us.
You were talking about moving, and it's interesting. So, Eve's interpretation of Hexagram 17, she talks about looking for an environment that feels right, true, and alive. The driving force behind it is discomfort because you have to leave what you're comfortable with to go to this new thing because it feels more true, alive for you. It's interesting. There's the change there, right? So all changes are uncomfortable while you're going through them, but you ease into them and you explore them with an
Right.
open mind.
I'm so
So,
glad
yeah.
you shared that because that rings right on for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking about this, moving from one thing to another and the discomfort, you can also look at it as following your joy, which is not always an easy thing to do because you're going with your intuition rather than what you feel obligated to do. You may feel obligated to stay in a certain area or continue doing certain behaviors or practices or keeping certain things. This is what we were going through in July. But going with your intuition, like, do I really need this? Am I going to need this? Do I need 5 coffee cups? I'm only one person. Maybe just take two forward with
Right.
me.
And also having the decision to move was almost an intuitive. The way it all came together was so remarkable in
Mhm.
that I just got an email from a realty company about something available and it was the perfect thing.
Yeah.
And I just went to look to check out the environment and
Mhm.
what kind of housing would it be, the location, etc., for the price. And it was perfect. Move-in ready. Then the concern, I actually didn't allow concern about selling our property in Florida. I know a lot of people worry if they have to sell, how long is it going to be on the market? Are you going to
Mhm.
get buyers, etc.? But the first person who came to view it within 4 days of when it was listed put an offer on it that was fair and we accepted. So it was handled. Everybody was in shock about how can this happen so fast? But everything seemed to roll. And when you talk about intuition, my thoughts that arose were just keep going.
Mhm.
Just have this be okay. Just do the next thing there is to do. And then when Phil fell in the house, over a box.
Mhm.
That's when I knew we had to have a moving company. We could not do this ourselves. It was just thing by thing by thing. And now here we are. And it all happened. And
Yeah.
I didn't have a stroke. They always talk about, oh, the number one stress. The top two stresses in a person's life. One is moving, and the other is the death of a loved one. So fortunately, no death of loved one. But wind, I think the energy of wind just helped blow some of all of that away. And all the energy of the army, it was just natural to roll into the organizing and the things that had to happen when they had to happen and just do them and they happened. And here we are in a
Mhm.
new energy, the
Yeah.
chase. So
The
what
chase.
concerned me though, Donald, and I want
Mhm.
you to speak to this, is that the energy is shifting when you hit a setback that provokes you into action. So when
Mhm.
I reread that immediately, it was like, oh no, kind of thing. How would you describe the kinds of setbacks that might provoke us into action that would actually lead into this energy of the chase?
Well, you kind of already had a bit of a setback when your husband tripped over the box and then you decided to get movers. A setback would be something where you realize you can't move forward because you may injure yourself. We learned about great injury back in May, right? Like trying to push things too hard, and there was a lot of resistance and a lot of people pushing themselves around back in May. We learned how to deal with setbacks as okay, let's take a pause. A setback to me, it just seems like a pause. You can't go forward, so how else could you tackle the problem? Or is there something else you can do while that thing is delayed? We've been gaining all these skills to work around setbacks. Now, when I see a setback, I'm okay, now we've got all these tools to work around them. We can either do something else, we can get some help from friends.
It's not always just on us
Mhm.
to do everything. We
Yeah.
can have a community of people to support us.
I'm not sure what the setback will be for me, but anytime there's a setback, I may have problems getting a moving truck, for example. But then maybe I have a friend with a truck.
Right. It just sounded so ominous. But when you talk about it, there are all kinds of setbacks that happen. I always think of big catastrophic kind of thing, the end of the world. I'm glad we had that conversation. That's a big relief moving into August because I thought, oh no, what is it going to be? Is it
Hmm.
going to be something horrible, catastrophic, etc.? No, as you
Hmm.
described it.
It's funny, it brings us into the first movement of the Hexagram 17 because that line's called the setback that propels. It's almost like a slingshot.
Like you said, it's not just a bump in the road. It's something where you go a new angle or a
Mhm.
new strategy that propels you forward.
When I was reading about August, there almost seemed to be this energy of there's going to be like this choice point because you get into movement two and it says a choice between two extraordinary paths. And it's not worrying about taking one or the other, it's just following the one that you want to follow more than the other.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
not worrying about letting the other one go. It sounds like for everybody, there's going to be some options going on in August, and you're going to have to set yourself in a direction, whatever that is. That could mean many things for many people.
That's good you pointed that out because I know in my past lives, this
Mhm.
time around, when I've made decisions and moved forward, sometimes there's a lot of second guessing. Was this
Mhm.
the right thing? And spending time and energy on trying to monitor if I'm doing the right thing versus having not taken plan A, I took plan B. And what Eve wrote about was you don't have to worry that's going to disappear forever. It may come back at another time when you might bring that choice into your life. But for now, this is the way to go and enjoy it. I must go with relish
Yeah.
and enjoy and use all the things that we were learning with the army and stuff as you
Mhm.
move down that path with
Yeah.
strength and clarity and some passion, maybe.
If you have more than one option and you pick a path, don't continue to look back and regret the options you didn't choose because then you'll be looking at something else while walking forward in something new, and that'll probably be a disaster for the new thing, the new beginning, or a
Right,
new start.
because you're not really committed to it. You're not
Yeah.
engaged in it. You're not focused. What else about this August energy?
For each movement, I wrote a little bit of a question. For the movement one, the setback that propels you forward, we can all ask ourselves, where is my life being rearranged so that you can find the correct direction? And how do we move into that direction with wisdom, grace, and curiosity?
How do we move with wisdom, grace, and curiosity? What would
Yeah.
you say about that?
Wisdom is all the experiences you've gone through to date and learning from your mistakes. And grace is the openness, I guess, be open to new things, giving grace to things and gracious with yourself too, because a lot of people judge themselves. So it's like without judgment and be curious, like a child. Maybe they've never
Right.
seen a shovel and they're in a sandbox, and then all of a sudden they're having a whole day of it with the with the shovel and they're building sandcastles.
Open to new discoveries and new ways of being and doing and new people and things. At some point, I was wondering before all of
Mhm.
the move happened, do I have the energy to do this? New people, new friends, one more time. But I just let that go. That was just a thought. And I have the energy I have. And it comes and it goes just like normal during the day. And if I'm
Mhm.
well rested, I have a burst of energy. And if I stay up too late and are worrying about things, then I don't, but it's okay.
Yeah, and you got to give yourself grace too, right? If you don't have the energy, just say, okay, well, I don't have the energy. And always remember that true friends or stuff like that, they'll stick around if you tell them no. They're not like, you're not my friend anymore because you didn't want to go to that dinner date or whatever. Then you'll always be trying to keep up with everybody, and that'll be exhausting. The next line is called the choice between two extraordinary paths. Among the choices that you have, where are you stepping fully into one reality? This is where you got to look at what you value and facing the unchosen path with gratitude, not regret, not looking back at that path. If you ever offered an opportunity of two different lovers, for example, and you choose one or the other, you can't always look back and, oh, what would my life have been like with the other one? Because that's going
Right.
to wreck your current relationship.
I think sometimes people look at that with jobs. They
Hmm.
choose a job, they chose to leave a job,
Hmm.
or maybe they were fortunate enough to have more than one offer and they worry about what if. That's just made up stuff. You didn't do it. It's
Yeah.
gone. I don't know where it comes from that so many of us do that. We reflect or we start to judge, did I make the right choice or this, that, or the other thing? Maybe it's trying to look good or look like we're in control. What do you think?
I think it has to do with control. Life is not a linear thing. For example, you may choose a job, but later on, you can always take a different job. It's okay to not look back with regret on the things that you didn't pursue, or sometimes the things that you're pursuing, there's lots of roadblocks in your way. So then you got to think, maybe this isn't for me. At some point, you got to have that realization. It's so difficult, and why am I still chasing what's difficult instead of this other thing that feels better?
Right.
And all the doors are open there. It's green lights over here and red lights over there. Why
Right.
am I still going towards the red light?
And it takes actually some discernment, I think, to be able to see that, see what you're doing or how you're thinking, and choose to let that go and have that be okay. It takes practice, I think.
Yeah. And then that leads us into there might be a little bit of doubt in August. So, doubt after making a decision. This all goes back to the first line. Did I make the right decision? And worrying about that. Where are we second guessing ourselves in life? So, it's going to be a common question that you could ask in the month of August. Am I second guessing myself too much on this? Should I just
Mm.
be enjoying what I have?
Right.
I picked the banana, not the apple. So, why am I not just enjoying the banana?
Exactly.
You got to have a little bit of faith that you're making the right choice because you followed your joy. And the funny thing too is when you make a decision, it doesn't always meet the expectations that you had, but it's about not judging what's going on and opening up and being graceful to, okay, well, maybe I wanted this certain thing. It doesn't look like what I expected it to look like. Can I still enjoy that or not?
In a way, adapting. Sometimes I know I'm influenced from time to time by the environment, what I think things should look like based on what people are talking about or how they're living their lives or whatever. It's easy to have that little what's wrong with me. It just sneaks up. And you go, oh no, not again. But that's so true. I noticed a little bit of that happening and then just recognizing it, maybe getting better at recognizing when those little voice, those mind parasites or whatever come, and I can just let them go. It's just a thought. It's
Mhm.
not reality. I have a little mantra. This works, this works, this works. I chose it for this reason. That's still valid. I'm happy here. End of story. No more.
Yeah.
Until, of course, a little doubt creeps up again. But that's, I think, the nature of the mind is way, don't you think?
I also find if you put your own expectations of outcome on things, then you don't allow to be surprised by what it could turn into. If
Just
you're expecting something to taste sour and it tastes super sweet or something, or too sweet, then if you walk into it with no expectation, then you're open to whatever it's going to taste like.
exactly. Have it be a discovery and a surprise, and
Hmm.
hopefully a nice one. And if it's not, you just don't do it again. So,
And
what
that
is our next line?
brings us into the obstacle of refinement. What obstacle is halting your path? This is about sharpening and honing our skills and gaining understanding about what we've discovered. And you can only gain those understandings when you're open, when you don't try to box it in, the new experience or the new thing or the new feeling, whatever is new. It looks like this chase is going to bring in something new or a new choice, or we're going to make a choice and it's going to be something new. It's
And
almost like the fool's journey going on right here
there are
in,
going
in,
to be
in August.
obstacles.
Hmm.
That's life. There are
Hmm.
always obstacles.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that
And
sounds like naive.
we grow from the obstacles
We
path.
learn things, we get maybe new skills, or we
Mhm.
let go of things that we thought we wanted, but we really didn't. Or we found out things were harmful that we thought, why am I bringing this into my life? This is not a
Mhm.
good thing. All of that is a learning. And I think as long as we're living and active and alive, then the learning occurs. That's part of the thrill of life, discovering those little things and learning and moving forward.
Yeah, and that's a perfect introduction to the fifth line, which is the circle of joy. So after you've gone through the doubt of your decision and refining what the decision was, you get to the joy part. So where can you laugh, play, and relax in this new decision or this new thing that you're doing? And not to be so serious and maybe open up to more playfulness. This is the finding the nurturing joy in things. How is it nurturing you and making you fulfilled?
I think for a lot of people now, they're so wound up in all the events of the world that there's so much anxiety and internal suffering, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Exactly. So, where are people being too serious? Where are you being too serious? Do you need to be that serious? Because when judgment creeps in, there seems to be this theme of judging the choice. And once you
Yeah.
judge something, then there's a seriousness. Oh, now I'm set on this new path that I don't like, or maybe don't like because of this one thing that's bothering me, instead of looking at the 10 other things that are great about it. So, this is just seriousness versus playfulness. So, where are you being too serious? Where can you be more playful? Or vice versa. Sometimes you need to be serious. Seriousness isn't a bad thing. It's just I
Right.
find the world is too serious at times. Everything's the biggest thing and has to have everybody's attention for some reason.
And that's driven by external conversations. All the media, the social media, just endless yakety, 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 yak. It seems that to get people's attention, it's always got to be a big drama or some big disaster. So are we now to line 6, which is the
We
last line? And usually, if I'm correct, it's a warning
all
when read.
It's called the pause and the warning. It's looking at who supported you and where did you support yourself. This is a warning to pause, to have a little bit of gratitude. Who supported you and be grateful for that? And did you support yourself and you should be grateful too. For me, when I was reading this line, it was celebrating the small wins and how far you've come is very important because a lot of the time we're in the chase energy. If you rush ahead and you don't take time to acknowledge how far you've come and celebrate that and be grateful for it, then you miss the party and then you're on into the next serious thing or the next thing in your life. And never once did you stop to say, oh, wow, top of the mountain, just take a breath of fresh air and take in the view. Well, so, do you have anything else to add for the
I
pause
would
in the
only
morning?
say for those who have just joined us that when we were talking about the energy, each hexagram consists of 6 lines and it's built from 1 up to 6. These are the movements of the energy and things that are occurring. And this is the collective energy. This energy is occurring around us in our communities, in our families, and there's this movement and it flows through these 6 different lines that we were talking about. Would you have anything you want to add about the hexagrams?
No, I think you covered everything about the hexagrams. I just wanted to add this is about the stuff going out around us, but it's also like the stuff going on within you. If you're in any spiritual circles, they'll talk about as above, so below, or as within, so without. So this polarity play. So what's inside of you appears in your reality, and what's outside of yourself can actually impact your inside. So there's this duality or polarity going on all the time. So if you're heavily involved in the news, it could put you into anxiousness. If you have inner peace, then maybe you don't fall for the anxiousness that everybody else is going through, and you can be that guiding light.
Was helpful. Thank We've talked now about what we're all headed into. And just remember that there's no specific date that you're going to shift from the energy of the army, which
Mhm.
was July, into August. So
Yeah.
these are things, what we're talking about are what some of the signposts you may see going forward into August. It could take you until the end of the first week, sometimes the end of the second week of August, to feel like you've actually moved into the energy. And for some people, they may already say, I'm in the energy. What you described, I'm already living it. And
Mhm.
it's only July. And that's true for you. And that
Mhm.
is just how it works. The next energy Donald's going to talk about is
Mhm.
how do we know when we're moving into September?
August is the chase. It's a teacher in trust and surrender or letting go. And we'll know that the energy is shifting into September when you encounter the need to make small sacrifices. So there's going to be a need to make small sacrifices. September, the new hexagrams will be hexagram 11, which is peace. And we're having another repeat one in hexagram 34, great injury, which is a repeat from May. That'll be a second chance to get better with that sort of energy coming up in next month.
Right. I think Eve says the first time that you encounter the energy, that's building an awareness. The second time you integrate, it's an opportunity to integrate what you learn. But that's September. I'm going to work on living through the currents of August with some joy and some
Mhm.
playfulness, some grace. And when we come back, the end of August, for our next I Ching conversation, we'll be able to talk about what happened. It's so interesting. And for those of you who want to join us or you haven't purchased the book, we highly recommend that you get a copy and enjoy reading the different chapters, joining us in the conversation every month, the end of the month. The book is available from Amazon, and I'll leave a link below in the description. And Donald had mentioned hidden design.
I haven't really done much on that. I've had to shift my focus on moving house.
I know Eve Smyth
Mhm.
has a Substack channel and talks about the I Ching, and she even channels. She had concerns previous that there were a lot of people in her environment who were anxious and worried. And so she channeled some healing messages for people to have more comfort in their lives. Check out her Substack channel. I will leave the link below. Be sure to follow this channel, which is Sanctum with Eve, because there's some meditations, there's some work that Eve is putting up every month to share with people. And then there are I Ching conversations. And you can go back to January for this year if you want to listen to our conversations as the years progressed. And we even have some from the previous year. We would love to have you join us. And with that note, I would say have a great August. Thank you so much, Donald. I appreciate you being here.
Mhm.
What would you like to add before we go?
Everybody have a great month. It sounds like it's going to be awesome. I also want to thank you too for having me on the show. I always enjoy these conversations.
I love having you. I love having the opportunity to talk about this because it's not always you're able to sit down with people and have this kind of a conversation. So I appreciate you being here and willing to engage.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
take care, everybody, and we will see you again the end of August.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.